The cosmos moves silently and doesn't use words to communicate. When it moves, for everything that dared to oppose them was shaken by the selected, and they laughed. Didn't they believe they have you surrounded and believed you were a helpless, vulnerable victim without support? Made fun of your silence and thought you were giving up. But what they failed to notice, that you were being watched, not merely standing motionless. By the universe itself, not the globe. And now it's not just you who must bear the whole weight of something much larger than they have ever. Supposedly, they were unaware that they had chosen to argue with someone whose quiet is more loud than their cries. The type of a person whose suffering awakens something old within them. The storm has arrived because they welcomed you to do so, not because you chased it. If this message is already hitting, it doesn't realize you are the storm. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're feeling really moved. It's more than just support. Signal that instructs the algorithm to distribute this to more selected individuals worldwide. People who need to recall who they are, because hearing this truth awakens you rather than merely making you aware of it. So let's remind everyone that you were never supposed to be normal. You possess an inexplicable power that cannot be described. In your words, in the manner that people feel uneasy around you, without understanding why adversaries want to break you and ultimately fail, the price of tampering with someone who was not chosen by man or by oneself, labels, but according to the world itself, they're haunted rather than merely angry. In a closed space, your energy clings to their skin like smoke, haunting them. Chamber. They seek to bury you, yet it persists despite their best efforts to shake it off. They believed they had destroyed you, but all they did was teach them that you were a seed. Begin something they can't stop. In reality, they weren't engaged in combat. They were battling the force that supports you without having to appear. Declaring publicly that the cosmos picked you and that it doesn't need to prove anything is sufficient to frighten those who have lived their entire lives believing that wealth, position, or noise are the sources of power. But your power comes from alignment, agony, and fire every morning when you wake up. Stop doubting yourself, and let's be honest for a moment, when no one expected you to stop behaving like you're out here alone, you're not. You've been safeguarded, guided, covered. Even when you feel most alone and hopeless, the universe never, don't disparage your journey. It was merely calm while you were preparing your return. To the person listening, your stillness signified preparation rather than defeat. Keep in mind that your light reveals lies. They attack you because they are awakened by your presence and feel threatened. You make everything seem phony and shallow, yet they don't comprehend is that they prove who you are the more they push. So let them speak. Let them undervalue, because when they discover who they've messed with, it will be too late now, and they will be standing in the wreckage of what they attempted to construct out of your devastation, wondering why the power of being selected is what causes the ground underneath them to tremble. It doesn't seek retribution, but delivers. It's quiet, yet reverberates. Repercussions. You were the lesson, you are the karma. You were never just someone, and they're learning now, so it's no coincidence that you're still here. When people are ready, the universe sends them messages like these. Not the loudest or most popular ones, but the genuine ones. Leave a comment with the number 77 if you've ever been made fun of, questioned, or driven away just to emerge stronger. That wasn't a sign of weakness. Stay with me while your power loads, because the next thing that happens will be different. Let's dissect that, especially if you've ever witnessed someone cross the line believing there would be no consequences. Step by step, you won't want to leave if you're really selected. Let's go into, first of all, they laughed too soon, and now they are the ones making fun of themselves. They broke it in an attempt to destroy it, but you were the mirror, never the issue, the reflection, and now they're gushing blood from each fragment. They chuckled because they believed they mocked your instincts and rolled their eyes, leaving you helpless. Despite everything, they characterized your silence as insane, irrational, and suspicious. As you stated, the same individuals that advised you to take a seat are now attempting to understand why everything around them is collapsing while standing in the ashes of their own conceit. This is the response they would never publicly state. They tampered with a selected individual, and they didn't realize you were playing a game without a restart button. Being aware that every falsehood, every insult, and every receipt was being stored by the universe, they believed they were merely playing games with a normal person. But what about every nasty remark they make behind your back? They were unaware that when someone gets selected, they're not walking by themselves, walking with a power so exact that it is in harmony with divine time. Doesn't shout for attention. Instead, it moves quietly and hits at the right moment. Ideal. It appears that fate intervened on its own and the storm has arrived. The fact that the same people who used to laugh at you are now whispering is extremely poetic. The same hands that attempted to throw dirt at you, now holding your name as a warning, are currently trying to pull themselves out of what they began by scratching at the dirt. It's cruel, but the worst part is that you knew this would occur. You've always seen the trend, and you made an effort to alert others to it. Even when the weight of loneliness made you doubt yourself, move away and offer them rest. Began, but the visions that used to keep you up at night are no longer there. Longer nightmares are real. You are attentive and not paranoid. You are a signal in a frequency that most people will never be able to access. Despite all the commotion, let's call it out. Aren't you weary of being questioned and assaulted simply for being? Are you sick of wondering if they're right and if you're too much? Too sensitive and harsh, and the harsh reality is that you're not too much. They're simply too tiny, narrow-minded, narrow-hearted, and tiny-hearted. They've never met someone that the cosmos personally placed on your path, and since they are unable to define you, they attempt to degrade you, but the catch is that they weren't battling you. Instead, they were using alignment thinking to pick a conflict with the same system that created you. They were merely making fun of someone, but when you mistreat someone you've picked, you're upsetting a cosmic system, not breaking any human. They're slapping the destiny blueprint and hoping it won't snap back. Finding out how that snap feels, this is how the selected image appears to be misinterpreted, misjudged and ridiculed, yet never moved, because no matter how many storms you've traveled through, even when you continue to carry light, especially when you question, you were chosen by the cosmos, not because you were flawless, because you were intentionally made to withstand being forged in fire. And each time you began to fade, reminding me that I didn't bring you this far to quit acting little to make yourself feel better when you fall. Stop striving to fit into places that make you feel smaller, and stop being comfortable with people. You've seen too much and felt too much. You didn't imagine it all, endured too much to be a coincidence. That isn't fantasy. That's proof. And while they did undervalue you, perhaps you have undervalued yourself as well. You believed you were by yourself, yet in reality, you've never been alone. You've always been shielded by dark shadows and stillness. From people who weren't supposed to accompany you on your journey, the loneliness that wasn't The solitude wasn't exile but training, and the punishment was preservation. Every chamber that turned you away was merely a stepping stone to the predetermined course. Every delay was divine. Recalibration. They were keeping you in alignment, not preventing you from. These same people who questioned you are now suffocating on the dust of your success. They believed that you were completed, are witnessing your name reverberate more loudly than theirs will ever do, occurs when the cosmos says enough at last. Because there comes a moment when the balance shifts and stillness becomes motion, in which energy reorganizes itself to fulfill its function, and when the time comes, the universe will no longer hold back and won't whisper it. It roars, turns tables, makes way, and doesn't ask for permission. The current situation they're in, therefore, to everyone who is reading this doubting, it's worthwhile to inquire why it had to be so difficult, and when the roles are reversed, already you're not having a breakdown, rather you're making progress. You're being built, not behind, and you're cursed. The pressure you're remember when they laughed, feeling isn't failure, it's power growing in real time. They were merely demonstrating their level to you, and when they betrayed you, they did more than try your patience. They tried the exact order that keeps you safe, and that order is currently shifting in the same reality. They laughed too soon and made fun of them for fixing their error. Now there's the punchline. You were always intended to shine, so rise not for retribution. You move like someone who's not trying to prove anything, but because it's who you are. Supported by more than just physical might, you have a purpose, which is why you remain here. They made a mistake. 1, the universe is now responding on your behalf. 2, they broke themselves in an attempt to break you. Rather, you sense it in your bones and lungs, even though others can't see it. Quietness of your presence. Something ancient, something protects you, genuine. You may not be able to express it verbally, but you have witnessed the indications. The people who attempted to hurt you fell apart in ways that no one could comprehend. Yet you remain silently questioning whether it was a coincidence. But you now understand this isn't luck. It's not karma. It's protection. It's cosmic, brutal, and exact. A coworker who spreads false information behind your back is suddenly exposed in meetings that they used to control. A friend who deceived you for influence is now walking in regret. The family member who stepped on your toes. The phony grins turning off in front of the individuals they were trying to impress limits as if your suffering were a joke, then abruptly loses control of the things they used to take for granted, and you did nothing at all because you didn't defend yourself, you didn't curse them, and you didn't even say anything, didn't have to. They weren't only playing tricks on you, they were posing a threat to the shield that protects you, a field of invisible force that glides like a shadow in space without shouting or flashing reverse. Reality is being shaped around you, not behind you, in ways you're not even aware of. Understand that you weren't left defenseless until much later. Instead, you were covered in. You may first have doubted, but order and order doesn't dispute, it's correct. Perhaps you asked yourself, why does this keep happening? Why do people oppose me? And eventually disintegrate. You felt bad about yourself because you were responsible for their downfall, although knowing that you did nothing to merit the assault. That's the heart of a chosen one. You're too conscious of your influence to doubt it. However, you must realize that you were never at blame for their downfall. Was the mechanism in place around you carrying out its intended function of neutralizing the threat before it escalated? Is not always smooth and not always evident. At times it appears to be a delay. Although it may appear to be rejection at times, you will always realize in retrospect that your soul would have been exhausted by that relationship that you didn't get the job. Failed. It was founded on deceit. The chance you lost wasn't a loss. It was a reroute. And the one who deceived you only disclosed themselves in order for the system to get rid of the virus before it spreads further. When it comes to people, it has marked. The universe does not play. It may take a while to act, but when it does, it rolls beneath the surface like thunder, unquestionable but loud. And when it defends you, it's not just saving your life, it's maintaining your mission. You were not placed here to be broken, but rather a firewall is necessary for a mission that involves disrupting, to awaken, to shift timelines. No one can see and no enemy can get past this being picked. Does not imply that you won't be attacked. Rather, it indicates that all attacks have already been reported, because your adversaries are engaged in a losing game in which each move they make results in a loss, becomes their downfall, and even more bizarrely, they won't understand why the universe moves so cleanly that it doesn't fall apart until it's too late. Create a scene, it sets an example, and you, the person who continues to question whether it's honestly, consider this. How many times have you been encircled and yet emerged unharmed? How many times did you think it was over only to get back up? How many times have you witnessed someone leave you just to realize afterward that you're stronger than before? Stop denying your brightness. You were a godsend the entire time, doubting your protection. The things around you are not coincidental. They are deliberate and have been for a long time. The suffering, which will persist long after the storm. It isn't noisy because it doesn't have to be. It works and doesn't flex. When someone chooses to cross the line with you, they're trying to break the rules, but they're not into a fight. Yet each time their filthy hands grabbed for you, the system reacted silently, viciously, and righteously. They believed they were only causing you pain. They were unaware of the fact that your energy is a component of a greater current, and that presently it balances out imbalances without having to justify itself. So maintain your head high, continue to walk, let them to converse, allow them to scheme, and allow them to fall directly into they set up a trap for you, but you're not alone because they'll never comprehend. And despite their best efforts, they will always wind up on number 3, the wrong side of that shield. They dug graves for you, and the cosmos doesn't punish those who fall into themselves. When someone decides to go against what is aligned, it rebalances. They obtain results instead of retribution. There's a beautiful brutality to it. Even with the universe's treatment of those who defy its chosen, not with blasts or pyrotechnics, but with a gradual devastation accuracy. Like clockwork, their demise starts as soon as their intention shifts. People smile in your terrible eyes too often to be considered a coincidence. In corrupt spaces, face sow seeds of sabotage, utter your name, and all of a sudden their plans collapse like paper after a storm. But you remain upright. Good-hearted people flow effortlessly through your area and are greeted with serenity, with alignment and clarity, but those who arrive disguised in jealousy and conflicting objectives, they resurface like a plague that bounces off its target. Because you struck back, but because your energy is connected to a system that is much bigger than you, to exact retribution while maintaining order, a shield that doesn't inquire, doesn't wait for you to realize that something is dangerous. It moves before you do. Betrayal, the lie behind the flattery, and the intention underneath the grin blossoming behind their eyes already, And as soon as that intention is recognized, they don't fall because you wanted them to. It's already too late for them, because your vibration is incompatible with the vibration they're using. You were never a part of their game, and they frequently reject things that aren't real. Energy just made the truth clear, which is why things break down when people turn against you because they cursed, not because you cursed them. Oneself, by obstructing what was aligned, pay particular attention whenever someone when evil enters your orbit, chaos follows them rather than you. Collapse. Their schemes backfire. The very lies they intended to trick you turn out to be noose around their own necks. This is a law. The cosmos is neutral. It is not magic. However, it is not blind. It understands intent and responds appropriately. If a person should be prepared to handle the drought that occurs when they throw shade at a tree that the universe is still watering, the part that gets them is that you don't even need to reply. Anticipate revenge. They anticipate noise. However, they receive silence, followed by slow collapse. Their attempts begin to backfire. Their phony allies begin to turn against them. Everything they attempted to construct around your name begins to decay from the inside out, and you're still unharmed. Why? Because your defense is ingrained in your identity contract. You weren't supposed to plead for justice. You were made to be aligned. You don't seek retribution, since the system prevents chaos from triumphing over order. Those who accompany, they are elevated in your presence because they admire honesty and clean hands. On the other hand, your energy destroys the real but multiplies the fake. It breaks down lies and magnifies the truth. And here's the truth for those who continue to misunderstand what it means to oppose a chosen one. They will do it to themselves with every act of hate, and you won't have to do anything. They collapse beneath you and turn all you throw at them into a burden around their own ankles. You've undoubtedly noticed the exact force they attempted to employ to drag you down. They still fell even if you didn't clap back. You didn't reveal anything, but even if you didn't plead for justice, the truth nevertheless surfaced. Arrived nevertheless, that's alignment, not a coincidence, and the universe doesn't miss. It just waits for the noise to subside before it fixes itself. So the next time you notice that shift in the fake smile, someone displays their hand. Tension, the intuition that something is wrong, trust it. The system is warning you about paranoia before your mind catches up. System that protects you against things you're not even aware are happening. And you will remember this truth when the dust settles and they are engrossed in their own mess while you are still standing. Don't fight back. You are always outnumbered and out-aligned. They observe that they convey resonance rather than seeking retribution. And when you do, your adversaries try to stop you by destroying themselves rather than merely losing. Your ascension is a rebalancing. So let them fall and let the cosmos take care of what your hands were never supposed to touch. Only for you, but also for everyone who ventured to think you were simple to break number 4. They didn't believe you at the time, but time will soon show that they are dead. Incorrect. The people they made fun of end up being the ones time is worshipped by history, and it does more than simply reveal the truth. You were never, fortunately, you were in alignment. The difference is that luck can fade. Trends come and go, but alignment endures forever and leaves a legacy that you didn't miss. You were saved into survival, not because it was an easy journey, but because they chuckled and murmured, your purpose was too important to lose. Time was already taking notes when they attempted to remove you from the rooms you were supposed to lead, and now the clock is going to cash the receipts. The items you carry are not noisy, attention-seeking. It operates in silence and doesn't require praise. You've persevered through storms that others wouldn't make it through. They never even realized that you were carrying weight on your back, and all the while others made fun of things they didn't comprehend. They witnessed your hardship, and they perceived your suffering and believed it to be evidence that you weren't selected. Frailty, but the cruel irony is that what they made fun of was the mark. You are not the mark that the universe has always placed on those it cannot let go of. This energy has existed on earth for a long time and was present in the bones of every misfit, visionary, and seer who recognized the truth before others were ready. As Tesla held the future in his hands, they made fun of him for accepting it. They banished prophets, betrayed soldiers, and disregarded Cassandra as she proclaimed the truth with fire in her throat. Kept the light-bringers quiet until the same things they had warned of collapsed, just as they had observed, followed by quiet, regret, and then revision. The sequence is always the same. They laugh first, then they get anxious, and finally they rewrite history to show that they were there for you from the beginning, but don't get it wrong. You recall who questioned you, who blamed you while you were bleeding in the dark, and most significantly, you, when the world was ready to see you, remember who you were. You might not be recognized now, and you might feel like your time is not your enemy, though, as you move by unseen and unheard. Time is your advocate and your waiting vindication. Testimony. Explanation. Since alignment delays are not rejections when you come in, they are preparations for occasions that will be so obvious that even your adversaries will have to acknowledge they anticipated them and disregarded it nevertheless. Your route remains unobstructed, not because it's simple, but because it's required. You are essential to something far more significant than what's before you. The cosmos doesn't shield those who don't. Its goal is to safeguard assets, and you are a valuable asset to the future, which is why the loss didn't shatter you and the betrayal didn't take you out, which is why the quiet simply made you sound more incisive. Give them time to reflect. Let them believe they prevailed, because by the time your truth comes out, you've faded. Nobody, not even them, can deny it when it lands with a weight and they will see your face. Where they didn't anticipate hearing your name in rooms they attempted to lock you out, they'll recall how they chuckled and how you didn't have to react, as vindication speaks loud enough on its own. Don't hurry. The power of being selected lies not in immediate satisfaction, but rather in what's yours will inevitably rise, not because you demand it, but because you are not a maybe. Rather, the cosmos has already made room for it. A question of time, so when things become difficult and people turn their heads away when they make fun of, what they don't realize is that you're becoming, not just walking. Every delay serves as a detour, and every door that is closed is actually an upgrade. Every slight is fuel, and each second that goes by brings you one step closer to your they believed they had the last moment, the one that no one can steal, mute, or damage. Word but time writes the final narrative, and your name appears prominently. Number 5, they viewed everything you warned of after calling you insane. Realization of the eyes that rolled at your warnings are now open as you witness the debris you foresaw come to life. They said that you were too sensitive, too emotional, and too intense, with scary precision. However, what they meant was that they were too conscious to bear the burden of what you noticed, that you weren't responding to the world before it arrived. They were simply too late to sense what you had anticipated, and now the same individuals who rejected you as being unstable, dramatic, or paranoid while you were standing in the center of chaos The precise turmoil you attempted to alert them to isn't, ironically. This is a frigid application of cosmic law, and without expressing regret, you were always on point, you were perceptive, and you read energy like others were too numb to perceive the signals that language picked up, and because your clarity revealed their comfort, they tried to embarrass you into silence, yet the universe functions on truth rather than their viewpoints. And when someone tries to twist the facts, there are consequences. Are a promise, not a possibility. They believed your borders were optional, although they might try to manipulate your intuition into submitting. That kind of disrespect is not tolerated in the cosmos. There is a price for going outside the lines, soul fire, and the price is always in line with the crime, not only because you're petty, but the system is accurate, much like gravity. Doesn't care who believes in it, it just reacts without waiting for approval. Always be aware of your surroundings and pay attention to the coworker who disregarded your intuition. Now, the friend who called you faces the precise consequences you foresaw. You attempted to shield children from that relative, but the drama has now drowned them. They're now backed into corners you saw forming long before they existed, and they laughed when you set a boundary. Are not mishaps. This is the record of consequences, not retribution. Written in the precise wording, they disregarded reality. When your truth is based on resonance, there's no need for retaliation. You are not the avenger, rather you are the one who uses alignment and energy to execute the work. Testimony, and it is not your responsibility to defend, explain, or persuade. Your task is to monitor, because the thing that used to make fun of your sensitivity now has watch how what attempted to label you weak suddenly falls under the weight of its absence, of everything you carried in silence. But this is the section where they'll never comprehend. You didn't want to be correct. You weren't alerting them to ego. Your heart was in protective mode, and you hoped to spare them. Theirs remained in denial, and they now had to deal with the consequences of their disregard. You didn't say anything to be heard, but you could see it approaching like a train in the distance. That's duty, not drama, and you spoke because the truth was loud enough to pass through you. Chosen ones don't speak merely to create noise. They speak to issue warnings that have far-reaching effects. Feeling, and when no one pays attention, the quiet teaches itself. You are still standing here, not taking pride in their failure, nor enjoying it. Observing everything play out precisely as it usually does, since you've witnessed this. They question, they make fun of, they go over the line, and then they suffer, and your energy level slightly increases every time your heart breaks. Your voice is a little clearer and stronger because you now understand what being selected entails. Being in the lead, not in prestige or recognition, but in awareness warning mechanism in a society that always waits until it's too late. They disregard you, and the record keeps growing. One more lesson, one more example, one more reminder that you cannot ignore what you carry without repercussions. So stop shrinking. Expressing regret for witnessing something others claim is unreal. You are not. You are a signal. You are accurate. You are not dramatic. And everyone who will eventually discover the truth the hard way if they decide to disregard that indication. You are here to remind the awake, not to persuade the blind. Let the records reveal that you warned, you spoke, you remained steadfast, and now the cosmos is doing. It consistently writes the remaining findings in number 6, but they never pay attention. When they saw you, they laughed, but now it's their turn to feel the flames. Quiet, when they realized that silence was your final warning, they stopped laughing. It always begins the same way. They perceive your composure as weakness, and you're quiet as submit. They use your grace as an excuse to push the envelope, disregard you and doubt your value, and then it's just like clockwork. When they cross the line, the pattern repeats itself, the cosmos reacts, and you've witnessed it. So all of a sudden, they're standing in the wreckage of an error they believed they could get away with. Frequently, it no longer shocks you. They fall one by one, not because you wished it, because the law governing your rights, not because you clapped back. Unbalance is not tolerated in life, and that law is more ancient than fear and more incisive than retaliation. It's an integrated consequence mechanism intended to rectify every mistake directed at you. And when the idiots dash in, believing they're wiser than the system, they watch, they adapt, they sense the change and retreat out of respect rather than fear. And no matter how many, when the cosmos creates an example, another haughty face inevitably appears. Another arrogant person who believes they are the exception. Let them the rhythm. You're practically bored with it now and aren't even shocked. The cosmos never stops teaching until the lesson is learned, until the smirk disappears and their eyes change, not because they are in anguish, but after realizing that you've seen it frequently, you know that it's not loud, dramatic. It's simply the fleeting moment in their face when they realize they weren't interacting with someone ordinary. They weren't ruining a pornographic film or dragging down a pushover. No, they chose to argue with someone who has never been aligned with them, someone whose way has been cleared by powers they'll never encounter. Even if they're alone and silent, completely comprehend that it's when their ego crumbles beneath the weight of reality that the change occurs. That moment of acknowledgement of the gradual realization that they completely misinterpreted you, that you, the reason you posed a threat was not your loudness, but rather the fact that you must allow them to push the boundaries and disregard the warnings. They insist on learning the hard way, and you are attempting to save them from lessons. The difference now is that you are here to observe the fall, not to stop it. You see the disrespect, the lies, and the treachery, but you no longer internalize them. With calmness and clarity, fully aware of what will happen next. Always rises when reality speaks for you, not when you talk. Since your existence is evidence of a more profound rule at work, people either learn from whether they become the next example or how the universe responds to you. In any case, the pattern persists. The law remains the same. The chosen don't demand acknowledgement. They use experience to show reality. Your life educates you. Without your presence changes the temperature in the room, and your boundaries are instructive. Every room you enter, the instant someone chooses to put you to the test, is as soon as the surrounding system starts preparing their instruction, and by the time they recognize who you are, and it's too late to correct the error. What's crazy is that you provided some of them warnings and indicators. You also extended peace. You showed them kindness and patience, but they didn't deserve it. They mistook empathy for weakness and presumed naivete, although they were unaware that your silence was a form of containment rather than submission. You were restraining the storm to provide them with an opportunity to do it correctly, and when they failed, the storm didn't shout, it just came. So let them test it. Smile and say, you've witnessed this narrative unfold too many times to be concerned. How it ends, and you don't even bat an eyelid this time. You don't warn or explain. Secondly, you simply move aside and let the cosmos to do what it always does. Restore equilibrium, defend its own, and set an example for those who don't discover another method. Awareness always increases they will discover who they were, whether via insight or wreckage. They attempted to eliminate number 7. But the cosmos was recording everything. The universe never gets lost, even though the world may forget, twist, and ignore time. A solitary detail: justice is the harvest, and every slight is a seed. Undervalued you. Of course they did. That's how the best things always begin. The strongest souls, the ones destined to change timelines, are the disruptors. Never show up with cheers. Instead, they arrive as misfits, shadows, and outsiders. Scoffed at before they are heard and dismissed before they are found. Like everyone else who came before you, they referred to you as a nobody. However, they consistently fail to comprehend that the cosmos keeps books of history. And when those receipts arrive, they make a lot of noise, are filled with names that, to their generation at the time, were merely jokes. Moses was dismissed as a teenage peasant. Joan of Arc, a stuttering outcast, was burnt for daring to lead. They were shaped by anguish, rejection, and fire. They weren't born into thrones. And then made public when the timing became mandatory, just like you didn't ascend via ease. You were molded by the fire of neglect. You are not outside you are following in the footsteps of the underappreciated tradition. Incorrectly classified as the hastily judged, but what distinguishes you now and what makes this, the speed of the universe and the acuity of justice are different in this era. Time itself is becoming the final generation to be justified, is collapsing, and the reckoning is taking place in real time. Every instance of rudeness, every false tale, every time someone attempted to make you feel smaller in order to make you feel larger. This is not superstition. This is cosmic law, not fiction. And while people forget, they distort and alter reality to fit their egos because the system in place above them only uses the truth. The fact that others didn't recognize you doesn't mean that you've forgotten who you are. It makes the point that you don't need retribution by using their blindness. You are already being positioned and are always a part of a larger plan, so you don't need to prove yourself. When they fired you, the system was adjusted to not penalize, but to preparation. The solitude wasn't exile, the delays weren't rejections, they were staging. It was alignment. And those who attempted to destroy you will now have a front. Row seats to the reveal that they believed they could stop. Let them rewrite. Let them speak history to themselves. It won't make a difference. Because when the time comes, the truth comes with proof, not just tales, but change of the sort the type that causes people to pause in the middle of a sentence and realize we were. By that time, you won't even have to say, I told you so. Instead, you'll just be, they will see the doors and the aura that surrounds you as you enter the rooms. That will torment them the most is knowing that once it's slammed shut, it will fly open. They looked at you and saw what they thought, yet they chose to be arrogant despite having access. Although you were, the cosmos always understood your true nature, an assignment in motion, a danger concealed beneath a whisper, a force humility. They believed that by dimming your light, they could only enhance the contrast to make it obvious when you stand up. And here's the reality. They will never publicly acknowledge that they saw it, perhaps not all of it, but they sensed it. That uneasiness about you, that silent force they couldn't identify. They didn't make fun of you when you spoke, even if you weren't trying. They made fun of you because they believed you were nothing, but they secretly knew you were. They acted as though they were unaware of everything. And now the orchestration is the stage is illuminated, the score is swelling, and you, who were once not because you pleaded for attention, but because the background is now the main frame, because in the long run, the truth always prevails. Always, this is justice that doesn't require a trial or cheers, transcends time like a present-day quiet patient, so you don't have to explain person you are no longer. The outcomes will take care of you. The life you are about to embark on will be more powerful than anything you could ever say. The cosmos is not simply defending you, exposing you, and exposing those who believed you were nothing. They will soon see everything they disregarded turn into unquestionably. They took what wasn't intended for them, and its energy doesn't lie when it comes to breaking them apart. What was intended, when touched by thievery, the healing power of love turns poisoned. You weren't only... They believed they could steal your power because you were encoded and protected, and take it for themselves. They duplicated your presence and replicated your words. They attempted to mimic how others felt around you, believing that if they dressed like you, spoke like you, and moved like you, they might have been you, but they failed to realize that your light was never transportable, not for sale, and definitely not theirs to take. And now they're discovering the hard way that what they attempted to collect is rotting in. Their hands are poisoned by what they extracted through manipulation. Inside out, not in a metaphorical sense, you've seen it unfold, the gradual decline, the unwinding. Their eyes are bewildered when the energy they took turns against them, and they still don't understand. They fail to understand that your light is a spiritual frequency rather than a brand. Signature ingrained in you, something holy that can only flourish in authenticity. When you connect with someone who is clean, your energy grows and heals, grows. But when someone shows up with avarice, jealousy, or ulterior intentions, the same, since energy was never intended for them in the first place, it activates them similarly to an immunological reaction. This isn't magic, this is design. You are a plan, not a random occurrence of intensity. Long before you were aware of your own power, your existence and essence were imprinted. Most people are unable to identify it, but the energy field can explain it. Surroundings are well aware of who you are, and more significantly, they are aware of who's not meant to be close to you, which is why certain individuals come into your life and fall apart right away. It's not you, rather it's the reality that their goals were. Your presence doesn't merely reveal it, it activates. When it activates someone who is unclean, parasitic, or dishonest, and the outcomes are disastrous. Their masks start to slide in, and their falsehoods start eating themselves. Rooms they used to own, and they attempted to take advantage of you without understanding you were. This degree of protection is programmed to reject everything that results from hunger rather than harmony. The majority of individuals will never comprehend, as it doesn't originate from. Favoritism is not a result of religion, customs, or pleading for mercy. Originates from being born into a function that is considerably more significant than anything typical. You are here to evolve the human code that is contained in your DNA, not just to exist. Something old that the technologies that purport to quantify don't acknowledge: power, achievement, and intelligence. You've always experienced the sensation of being distinct, not superior, but rather having a feeling that you were created for something that, even if they tried, most people couldn't identify. That's not ego, that's activation and immunity, energetic immunity. And that role are not in the sense that you are never harmed, but in the sense that any assault on you is self-inflicted, tries to hurt you, manipulates you, and they don't get away with it. Since your field doesn't work on human beings, absorb what they attempted to throw, time frames or ethical discussions. It functions by resonance. And if someone attempts to get your energy without alignment and the fee is automatically included. Unavoidably, as you advance, your field does more of the work, and you no longer even need to defend yourself. You become immune for you not by avoiding damage, but by being programmed to transform it. Your suffering into development. Their deceptions become discoveries. Your path remains clear as sabotage turns into fuel, not because you're fortunate, but you are vital to this moment because you are required. You are exactly as your ability to see behind others and recognize changes before they occur. When you find yourself standing in spaces that weren't designed for you, yet nonetheless manage to, your power is an assignment, not a happenstance. Therefore, the next time don't flinch if someone tries to steal your shine or compete with you. Just observe because of what they took, and don't decrease your frequency to meet them. Is already activating them without authorization. The system and you both notice it. You are not merely protected, this is part of your programming, and anyone who attempts, they will choke on it if you take what was written for your soul alone, because some light was always intended to be earned. It was never intended to be stolen. Ninth, you came here to move the scale, not swing the blade. You weren't supposed to waste your time seeking revenge. That's beneath you. Assignment justice is handled by the universe with an accuracy that no human hand could ever match. Your path eliminates mismatched elements and ensures that those that attempted to harm you are removed, becomes its own destruction. That's the gift you can concentrate on. You are more than simply a person. You are a building while they are busy unwinding. Life recalibration. You either bring individuals into alignment or reveal their distortion, which is the reason they either ascend with you or fall around you. Protected since you are superior to everyone. You are protected since you are a member of, you are need to be coded with the system itself. Something that up until now the world was unaware it needed, therefore keep moving forward. The universe maintains this because the task requires it, not to prove anything. The record includes every lie, treachery, and attempt to undermine your light. Everything is tracked. You're here to fulfill, not to fight. Let the you manage the becoming, the universe handles the justice, and so forth. One reality remains after the doubt, betrayal, and laughter. The chosen are constantly disclosed over time. You were never intended to be comprehended by the masses. You were instructed to change the frequencies in order to awaken the sleeping, withstand storms that others cannot endure. Let this serve as a reminder that you, if this message resonates with your spirit, you are never alone and you are never wrong. To keep the momentum going, like and subscribe. Put the number 77 in the if you're prepared to assert your authority completely, leave a remark and forward this to someone else. Selected one, it's time they rediscovered their identity.